gentlemen, welcome to your Empire Masterclass, I suppose, that we're bringing it to you. It's our continual education masterclass series, and I'm pretty excited to be. I've just flown in from Brizzy, and I tell you what, if you're Melbourne based, and I know Jason, you're not at the moment, but it is freezing down here. So here in Melbourne. For those of you that don't know my name, it's Paul Jantz, and thanks for joining us. We're here thanks to Professional Partners Education, our fantastic supporters at Hall Chadwick, Profit Master Global Outsourcing, iKeep, and Lloyd's Auctioneers. Now, we do have a massive audience today. So with a huge amount of firms joining us, some of the firms are joining us with team members. So we certainly welcome everybody. If you are here for the first time and you haven't seen what we do, let me just give you a quick little brief of Professional Partners Education. It's an educational content platform built for you guys being our accounting community. So the great part about this is everything is recorded. Everything goes into our PPE TV Plus YouTube channel. So if you've missed anything in the past, all of this content, including our live masterclass shows like this, our lunch and learn workshops, which is more on the technical side, it all goes into our YouTube channel and it's free. So all you got to do is jump into YouTube, search for Professional Partners Education, tick the little box for subscribe now, and you are there. Now, today's topic, we're talking about growing pains, and we're talking about a firm that has grown from $1 million to $3 million in revenue. Now, one of the key things I know, given my background, and if people don't know my background, I'll just give you a quick one. And I've been working with accounting firms for close to 24 years in this amazing industry. And certainly from a coaching and a training perspective, but I haven't met too many firms that don't want to grow. Now, there's obviously different ways to grow, whether it's the top line or the bottom line, whether it's a greater layer of clients, whether it's a greater layer of team members. There's all different aspects to growth that come into play. So it's not just a matter of saying, oh, I want to grow, because you've got to then define that to, well, what sort of growth are you looking for? And in what areas are you looking for? So we're going to go into those because we've called it growing pains, and the next hour or so is going to be fantastic because I'm looking forward to we're going to talk about a lot of the pros and the cons. So the great part is that my guest is going to be able to share, let's call it, some of the mistakes they've made along the way. And I think that's the great part about these sort of masterclasses where we can learn, listen, learn, apply. And I suppose these are the sorts of things that's what this is. So stay tuned. For the next hour, strap yourself in. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let me introduce you to my guest, good friend, Jason Robinson. What am I saying? Jason Cunningham. God, I don't want to introduce him, do I?
He's got a few years and a bit of experience on my old Cunners. So, yeah. But
Mate, I apologise for that. I just said good friend and then I tell you someone else. Good old live. It's good being live, isn't it?
It's all good, mate. It's all good. Great to be here. And sorry, I'm not dressed as beautifully as you, mate. As you said, I'm not in Melbourne at the moment. I've ventured up to Port Douglas for a working remote week up here, getting a lot done, which is fantastic. You know, when you can work remote, I've got screens and lights and stuff everywhere, but I don't have my microphone handle. So I've got to kind of use the old-fashioned handheld at the moment. But
the old, what do we call it? The old reporter when we go in and out.
Mate, I get too handsy when I talk too. I recorded a few episodes earlier this week of the podcast, and yeah, I was going nuts with my hands. And I went, "What's different?" I'm like, "Yeah, usually this is on a boom, and then I just sit calmly." But yeah, I don't know. All good though. We're here. We're having fun.
And what's funny about that is I saw some of that stuff about your podcast, and we're going to get to that soon because we will talk about that in terms of how you've been able to grow that. And you know, a lot of people sort of go, what do we do in this social space? A lot of people are doing podcasts. So we will get to that in a sec. But I saw that with your little microphone. I thought, I wonder where he is. And then, of course, you're in Port Douglas.
Yeah, no, it's just had some flight credits expiring. So Case booked a flight up and just said, we'll stay at my cousin's. Her uncles are around the corner. So nice, easy going, just a week to get in and get shit done. But yeah, it's been working beautifully so far.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait till you get back to Melbourne to this 5-degree weather. As we move on, mate, before we get into this, and it's our topic's growing pains. I know you guys there at Future Advisory have grown from $1 million to $3 million in 3 years. But before we get into that, I'm going to talk about all sorts of different topics today. Are you okay to share a little bit about you and the firm and your role, more importantly, at Future Advisory?
Yeah, definitely. Look, Future Advisory, yeah, we're 2.5 years old. So kind of, yeah, getting their third birthday September, which is going to come before we know it, by the time tax planning, end of financial year and the mad rush kind of goes through. Yeah, where to start? Me, just good old Jace. I never wanted to be an accountant, fell into it somehow through my business partner Greg, who we studied together, and he went, "Look, you've got your degree, you should do it." And then through working at a couple of firms, figured out that it wasn't so much the accounting work, but it was working with people. It was the people side of what we get to do in the accounting space, who we get to help, how we can add value, the ideas, the creativity, the complex problem solving. Like it was wrong of me to look at accounting and go, oh, boring, just punching some numbers into a tax return or doing a set of financials. It opened my mind to it being so much more than that. And I think the passion comes from loving business in that in itself. Future Advisory, the firm today, I think we'll get to before and after, but team of roughly 27, way too many client groups, office in Perth, office in the Sunny Coast, or a team member in the Sunny Coast, mostly Melbourne-based team. Had a team in the Philippines for a period, which I guess we'll get into as well, which will be fun to discuss. And my role, I mean, one of the directors, but Greg and I and Shelley, up until recently as a director and now in HR management, which has been amazing. I kind of focus on sales and marketing, which I think, as we touched on with the podcast and the growth without having a strategy around sales and marketing and someone who can focus their attention there, I don't think we'd get the growth that we get and the ability to onboard clients the way we do. Greg then more operationally, internally, he's got his eyes on everything that's happening inside, and then Shelley with people and culture. So having some really clearly defined roles at the top level, that kind of just means I can straight away go, when you say, what's your role at Future? I can say what that is. Of course, beyond that, there's the day-to-day stuff with the team and the clients and still getting into tax planning meetings and strategy calls and all of that. But yeah, that I hope sums up a little bit of who I am and how I got here and what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. And thank you. You mentioned a couple of things in there that we are going to go into. So if everybody that's joining this, and it's going to be good. So make sure you got your pads. And the great thing about this, again, it is recorded, so you can go back and watch this again, because there's going to be a lot of golden nuggets that come out of this that Jason's going to share with you guys, because we've gone through this in a bit of detail to make sure it's going to be massive value, I suppose. Mate, you mentioned Future Advisory, 2.5 years young, which is quite amazing, really. So when you rebuilt the business, let's say to Future Advisory, what was your starting point? Because, you mentioned that you've been in a couple of different firms, and
yep.
Me knowing you for a while, you've been, sometimes you got to go through the adversity to find.
Definitely. Look, and that's all definitely part of learning as you go. Greg and I started a firm, added a couple of business partners, added a lot of team members and a client, started a law firm. I think we had a team of 30 something before we decided to kind of split and go separate ways, just out of different directions, different vibes, different values, all those things.
Yep.
And when Greg, Shelley and I took off to start Future Advisory that 2.5 years ago, we were a team of 11. So we had around the 1 to 1 and a bit, 11 people that came out with us. And from that 7, I actually went back and looked at it. 7 of the team were full-timers and the rest were part-timers. So we had not a lot of people left over, in a sense, for the rebuild. But what we did have was a solid foundation and a great core to kind of get started again.
Yep.
And looking at those numbers again, from the 11, 9 of them are still with us 2.5 years later. So that core team, they're the bones, they're the backbone of Future Advisory, and they've been with us through thick and thin. Yep. That how it all begun, with the starting point. I wish we had more time. The way it kind of all fell out was that, one day the decision was made, and about 5 days later, Future Advisory had to be operational. So between the Friday, I think it was like the following Tuesday was the 1st of September. And we called the team on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. It was during lockdown, so fortunately not a lot of people had much to do. And in the team meeting, we just said, hey, look, Greg and I and our partners are going to be, doing the build. We're going to be moving everything from one firm to another, Ignition, Xero, all the rest. If anyone's free to help, let us know. And sure enough, basically every single team member put in something like 16 hours a day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so that Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. we opened a brand new firm, and it was like nothing had ever changed apart from the name and our email addresses. The clients were like, oh yeah, cool, roll on, let's go. So It was from a wishing that we had more time. What I would have wanted to do differently if I could start all over again but we didn't have the time, was have a good look at the technology and things that we were using and the automations and the workflows. And, what we'd built 3 or 4 years earlier wasn't necessarily the best of breed anymore. And if I didn't have to kind of make the quick jump, probably would have sat back and gone, is there now another alternative that we can use that's out there now that wasn't there 4 or 5 years ago? So
yes. We're going to get to that, which is good.
We will.
What I want to touch on is, given that we've now got past May 15, which I think everyone sort of gets past that and takes a bit of a deep breath, I want to sort of get into the bit about, let's call it the planning stages, whether you're a big planner in terms of strategic working plan. Do you do it just the 3 of you or the 2 of you? Do you take the team off site? In terms of a growth plan, I'm always big on plans. I'm big on structure, as an example. So I like having a working strategic plan that is accountable. It's a 90-day rolling plan, as an example. How did you guys start with that? Was it a plan? Was it a rolling plan? Was it people first? Was it clients first? Where did you start?
Great question. I think September was the rebuild. And by January, we've got to get everyone in a room and do our plan. So generally we have a pretty structured strategic workshop with the team, and it involves everyone. Like every single person is valuable. Everyone's opinion matters. We'll go through, generally recap, what's our mission? What's our vision? What are our values? We'll do a SWOT analysis. So we send out an anonymous survey link and we get the whole team to go through and kind of respond to that survey. And all of those answers are then summarized into strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We do a presentation. We then, as a team, use that day off site to go through. We do some development stuff as well, make sure that we're happy with everything that we've got going on. But then we take the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we workshop as a team and go, what needs to change? What can we do better? What's going to come out of this? And look, I'd love to say that we're perfect, and then we come back off site and we go back to the office and we solve all of those problems and move forward. But a lot of the times you get back in the office, and this is the challenge that most business owners have, is to then go, how do we action all those items that come out of a strategic workshop to move forward and continue to grow as a firm? Now, I think as well, again, probably being a harsh critic, a lot of the times you don't then reflect back to the planning day from the quarter earlier or the year earlier and go, where were we a year ago and what have we done since then? So we had a planning day last July at the CPA head office, hired a room at the CPA, took our whole team there. Great, cameras and microphones for having an offsite team as well. So our offshore team, Zoom, LinkedIn, Perth was in there, Sunny Coast was in there. And it felt like everyone was in the room together because it's, good technology. And that was, again, another epic example of getting the team together to reset, refocus, and set the goals on the year coming up. So that plan as well, it's across the board. We talk about our clients and our ideal type of client. We talk about, our team members and their strengths. We even do a disc profile on every single team member, which is epic to then understand, Jace is a bit out there. He's crazy. Oh yeah. Okay. He's a high I. He's nuts. Okay, that person, sometimes they can be very firm and direct. They're a D and an S. And then, if you don't know a disc profile, I'm not calling them a dickhead. It's just a D as in dominant. But yeah, so I love that day. It's probably one of the most valuable days in our year as a firm. And then also to be able to then tell our clients about those days and I guess sell them into those workshops as well, which I'd love to start to do more of those. But hope that kind of sums up some of what we do there from a strategic workshop point of view, and then how we kind of build the foundation each year. So it's not do it once and put it on the shelf and forget about it. We revisit every year. And I think I've just seen the calendar invite go out for the first one of the 2024 financial year. So we're getting ready to go again.
Yeah, look, and look to all you guys online as well. When I was running the coaching company, one of the things I did specifically, and our industry is very good at saying we don't have time. Okay, we don't have time. Well, it's about making time for the priorities in the business, in my opinion. So this is where I used to do all my planning with firms in June, not in August, because they say we don't have time. We've got May 15 deadlines. We've got tax planning to be done. Then we're on school holidays. We take 2 weeks off in July. Before you know it, we've lost the first quarter of the new financial year. So in my opinion, I believe you should be doing it in June and being prepared to go into 1 July, and everyone's got a really clear focus. So if that can help everyone online, please do it. And these little important little nuggets that Jason's sharing as well, that you can add to what you're already maybe thinking about doing. But yeah, look, a bit like Jason just saying, send out a calendar invite now. Okay, find something, because if you wait, the longer you wait, you won't have time. But send it out 6 weeks in advance, and you'll find time at the end of June or the middle of June, whatever it may be. Mate, let's go back to, you mentioned the importance of tech. So let's talk about tech stacks, because I know the industry has changed enormously. And I suppose, to be fair, I don't know, but I'll throw it out there. Xero probably drove a lot of this. I know, people that were with Maya for a very long time and were server-based, and Xero came along and they're cloud-based, and suddenly everything started to change a little bit.
Yeah.
And we all now know and understand the importance of, let's say the cloud-based tech. We're going to talk about automation in a minute as well, because I believe I've always worked on, again, building systems and productivity to increase the output. So are you okay to just jump into some of what you use, what you chose to use? Because you mentioned before, if you had more time, you would have changed things.
Yeah.
What you now use, it's not worth talking about, and why, more importantly, and what you've seen in terms of productivity gain, because I think that can be really useful to the firms listening.
Yeah, awesome. Look, I actually had to write them all down because there's just so many. And then as I was writing it down, it blew my mind as to, back in the day, like the first firm I worked at was like Handysoft, and it was all Handysoft, and you went in and that was it. And it was all, the server was out the back and you were done. And there wouldn't be too many extra things you'd need to add on, maybe Outlook for your emails, and done. Now I wrote it down. So when we started, Xero was kind of up and coming 7 or so years ago, when the first version of the firm, Greg and I started, was a remote, just remote doing tax returns using Xero Practice Manager. And then all of the evolution of that. Ignition was something that was coming out called Practice Ignition, obviously. And I remember going to my boss at the time going, shit, like we've been doing up Word documents, printing it to PDF, sending it to a client, asking them to print it, sign it, call with their credit card details. What a nightmare. There's this new technology called Practice Ignition. Let's do it. And then my boss at the time was like, nah, like we'll look at that later. And like that kind of was part of the frustration of, like, I wanted to be fast to act when new tech or new software came out. I didn't want to kind of sit back and wait. Always wanted to be trialing new things and getting those efficiencies, those automations that we weren't able to get without technology. So to reel off it all, and I've kind of highlighted a couple that I think has given us the most productivity gains, or at least change some of the mindset. I think talking about, revenue numbers of 1 and 3, that old saying of revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. So some of the tools we've implemented have actually helped to change some of that mindset. And we love growth and we love helping people, but at the end of the day, we've got a business to run. So that's been a bit of maturity that a couple of years in, we've gone, our mindset's changing a bit. So XPM, Xero, Ignition, Account Kit, Teams, Slack, Zoom, Podium for text messages, MailChimp for email marketing, Amelia booking system, which I'll touch on, Office 365, Now Infinity, Anacha, Trello, ChatGPT, Practice Protect, ATO Smart Doc Start Soon, and Dashboard Insights. And of the two that are probably a little bit out there, Amelia booking system, there's all Calendly and all that kind of stuff. But we did, years ago, we had a lot of individual tax returns. And since then, we've grown to have, a much, probably 70, 80% of the revenue comes from business groups and business clients. But there's still a good, loyal ITR base that keeps coming back every year. And we always toyed with the idea of like, how can we keep doing them? And maybe we shouldn't do them anymore. But automation and technology allows us to, as long as we can automate most of that process. And so all it is a 15-minute phone call for someone to just get on and confirm some things. So Amelia was a booking system that added to our website. Somebody wanted to book a tax return. We just give them a link and they go in, select an accountant, select a time slot. They get a whole bunch of checklists to fill in. And it kind of just drove a lot of that. They get the reminder emails or texts. Nobody else has to really think about it. So that was one of those ones that allowed us to maintain bringing in what's relatively simple revenue, but just not necessarily sexy work. So that was a good one that just, because before that it was the phone rung off the hook, right? You've got a couple of hundred or nearly 1,000 people or 2,000 people calling to get their tax return done. And if you've only got a couple of people in your admin team that are trying to battle all these phone calls, and year on year they tried to book earlier. Like I'm getting emails from like the end of April, people trying to book their tax return for mid-July already. And it's like, no, go to the link. That's it. Just sort yourself out, like all self-service. So that one's been brilliant. Obviously all those other ones have something, and this probably isn't a explain your tech in huge detail, but for productivity gains, the other one is dashboard insights. So I think when you've got so many different bits of tech like Zero Practice Manager, Ignition, if you're doing fixed fee or retainer based billing, a lot of the times you're trying to figure out, are we profitable? How do we go on that job? Like, yes. and it's hard in these new age tech cloud firms to really bolt all the data together. So dashboard insights we implemented, must have been November, maybe the year before last. Could be getting all my years wrong. But anyway, this year we've had a full financial year of the dashboard insights data, feeding everything in. So you can run it from an individual, from a team, from partner level, what the admin team have kind of got through. Like there's all these different dashboards. Mostly it's KPIs, right? Like timesheets, productivity, recoverability, WIP balances on certain jobs and tasks, and then match it back to fixed fee retainer billing to be able to see if we said to the client $1,000 a month for 12 months to do all these jobs. As we've then billed and completed those jobs, did we do less than 12,000, more than 12,000? Did we get a write-on? Did we get a write-off? So this has probably been where I say the mentality shifted from just trying to drive top line revenue growth and hope that everything else fell out the bottom, yes, to especially Greg. Like Greg's really great at this from a business partner and somebody internal who works really close with the team to drive that understanding of how does it all work? And we had a new team member start who came from another firm who hides all this info, doesn't talk to them about their charge out rate, their jobs, their bills, their profitability, and all of that. And he turned around after we showed him the dashboard and all the info, and he went, I love this. I love accountability. I love knowing my numbers and knowing my targets so that I know what I have to do to get there. And I was like, whoa, wow, like great feedback from someone, because sometimes you're in your own echo chamber and you just hear the things that you want to hear, but for somebody external to come in after a few weeks. But I think it was daunting at first, right? Like coming from somewhere that never knew what his target was or turnover targets or what he should be achieving, to then be told everything laid out in front of you, like very transparent. So yeah, that's been an absolute killer. Really, really impressed with the team and how they rolled out those dashboards. And then I think as well for the team, what it's done for them to understand and drive their own accountability, which I think one of the best things for team members is to know where they're going, to know how they get there and what is going to be measured and what's important to the firm and the business's success. And at the end of the day, what happens is it's jobs going out to clients that ends up with happy customers, which then realistically means at the end of the day, if you've done everything right and you're adding value, the bills and the profit down the bottom is going to continue to generate from that.
Yes. And that was, look, mate, thank you, because you probably reeled off, I don't know if everyone got them, but I may have heard maybe 10 or 11. The thing that I wrote down here is that does a firm
18 or 19, actually. That's okay. I said them pretty quick.
There you go. So 18 or 19. The challenge, and this is just given my experience, so I'll ask you as well, more of an off-the-cuff comment. Firms tend to see that as a cost and not an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And you've obviously you and Greg have taken it on board to say, well, hang on a minute. No, this needs to be an investment in, and I wrote other things down, as you mentioned dashboard insights, but the tech, do you feel that also drives a new type of client to the business? Because we're talking about growth.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, what a lot of clients will look for is businesses or people that are aligned to what they're doing as well. So even, look, there's a lot of noise around ChatGPT, for example. Back in November, I got onto it early, talked about it a lot. We wrote some blogs, we've done some Instagram posts. I'm going to be in webinars about it. So any business owner who is going, how can I use ChatGPT to help grow my business or to leverage efficiencies or whatever else? If they're looking for a new advisor, if they're looking to their accountant or their advisor for help and their advisor has no idea about this technology, they're going to look elsewhere to get that info that they need. one of the things that I'm passionate about, outside of future advisory is the accounting industry as a whole. The reason I do those webinars and I'm involved in the CPA and Xero's Partner Advisory Council is I want to make sure that the people that I collaborate with, the accounting firms that are not my competitors, that they are my brothers and sisters in the industry that I want to see do well. That's why I'm out there talking about that and doing things like this to go, if we share our info and we help each other grow and do better, the end of that is business owners get more help and have better businesses, and our economy thrives and people have jobs. So bit of a high level holistic thing of why, like the why beyond running an accounting firm. But I think that just means, there's unlimited choice in that tech, and there's heaps that we can do with it to grow and leverage. But yeah, there's a lot of them. I think on the efficiency side and the cost side, just to touch on that as well. Yes, it's an investment, but it can go horribly wrong as well if you don't make sure that it's rolled out to the whole team the right way. And this is where the mistakes come in. Like, I signed up to Podium. I got excited for a marketing guy. I'm like, oh, how much easier is it for a client to send a text message to our team? Like, emails are annoying, it gets lost. But if we need them to do something and I want to be able to text a client, but I don't want all my team's personal mobile numbers, darting around, what if I gave all of the team access to a phone number that's the future advisory text message line? And it meant if there's a client who's shit at checking emails, but I know he needs to sign his BAS, the admin team pings him a quick text. Hey, Mike, check your emails. There's a BAS I've just pushed to the top of your inbox. Please sign it immediately. Mike checks his text messages. I know he does, right? So then all of a sudden it drove those efficiencies, which is extra customer service, but it's an extra cost to us. Yes. Now, where it's an investment, but the cost is then if we fall away from using that technology and we're paying a monthly subscription for it and nobody's using it because, the 2 team members that were using it stopped and the rest of the team didn't get told how to use it or taught and trained, that's where you fall into those things. And across the board, I mean, if I go, Account Kit is underutilized. It's a fantastic bit of software that has so many tools built by an accountant, and we're probably using 10 to 20% of what it does. Likewise, things like Anacha, rolling that out, ATO Smart Docs, that should have been implemented ages ago, or ATO Mate. Practice Protect is awesome. That's set and forget. But yeah, there's lots of little things that you go, man, if we just use an extra 10 or 20% of the function of that software, yes, it would be worthwhile. And that's where you need to do your annual reviews or quarterly or however often you can get step back and look at your own P&L, like what we tell our business owners to do, our clients. We've got to treat our own business that way too, and look at our costs and go, is there anything there that we're wasting? Are we not using? And it is a wasted cost rather than an investment that is driving better results for our firm.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's one of the things that I used to do a lot as well. Like every quarter, if you guys that are listening, you guys can sit back and look at your P&L, because you can easily go to your subscriptions and go, how did that get up so quick? Because you're right. You've mentioned 18 there, and for everyone online, I'm just going to try and grab those 18 and drop them into the chat as well. So I know Jace reeled them off pretty quick, but it's good for you guys to know what these are, because there's some there that, to be fair, I haven't heard of either, especially something like dashboard insights when you're looking to measure how good you are or whether you've made a profit or a loss on a particular job per team member. That's just outstanding. So they're the sorts of things that, again, can drive all of that, which is great.
Yeah, 100%.
I might just quickly do that now. So let me just do that now. Drop this into everyone because I just did it. You're obviously okay with me sharing all that because you've already done it on.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say maybe to Krish, that question, calendar invite, if that's about the Amelia booking system, it goes to the accountant that the tax return was booked with. It goes to the client, so they get a Zoom link, a Teams link, or confirm that they've selected a phone call. And it's done when they book. And then the reminder goes, I think you can set it within whatever parameters you want, but we usually do a couple of days before the appointment just to bring it back to the front of their mind and make sure they turn up. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
And if it was in line with maybe what I mentioned, Krish, so which was about sending out a calendar invite to the team members to lock them into your planning session, yes, I would be sending them out a calendar invite now. Find a date, 20th of June, 25th of June, bang, send it out. It's a whole day event. Go to a client, go to wherever, go offsite if you have to. I'm a big fan of going offsite. That means you don't get interrupted. There's so many things that can interrupt you with day to day. So that's what I was meaning, if that was what you were talking about as well.
Yeah, and make a big deal of it too. Like do a dinner afterwards, something to celebrate the team coming together. And yeah, that connection you get from a day like that, where they feel like they're truly involved in the business and the decisions that are made, that buy-in you get. I mean, there's a reason 9 out of those 11 from 2.5 years ago that have gone through that growth. Now that growth is stressful and not easy and puts a lot of pressure on the team. They're still here. They're still rocking up each day going, we've got a mission, and it's to help people have a better future. And we're here doing that. So
brilliant.
Carry on.
So let's work into, let's say, some people and clients, because always two of the bigger ticket items. Let's start with team. I know you guys, you with Greg, as leaders of the business now, what's your number one focus with your people?
Good question. This one from leaders and focusing on people or clients, but focusing on people in this stage.
Yep.
I think we're quite blessed in a sense. My mum used to use that word all the time, blessed. Fortunately, and this, you can have this without just directors, you can have this with your leadership team as well, but just focus on directors and Shelley's involvement too, who has a HR background. Across the three of us, we both bring three very different elements to then what we, relay out to the team and our clients. Now, for myself, the most important thing that I'm always talking about and harping on about is communication and relationships. Like, that thing with the team, which then flows to clients as well. Communication, relationships, and collaboration. Like if you've got a team that are humming and comfortable talking to each other and solving problems and, just talking when something doesn't feel right or looks wrong, rather than kind of shutting down and keeping to yourself. So one of the things I'll do is I'll come in, big communicator, loud noises, let's all chat and kind of get things going. And that's often hard when you've got multiple locations and whatever. So some of the ways we run whips and huddles and those kind of meetings that keep that connection is really important. So then obviously there's other areas to focus on, which is the beauty of then like a Greg comes in and focuses on empowerment and development of the team towards hitting their goals, that, budgets and targets and more monetary and figures. But in that, with his guidance and coaching and leadership in that aspect, it's asking them the right questions and letting them think for themselves. So that empowerment thing is like, because they've got all the data, right? So it's having the first whip meeting of the month and going, do you know your target this month? And they go, yep, cool. What is it? This. Sweet. How are you going to get there? Talk me through what your plan is for the month, so I know that you've got it covered and I can leave you alone to do your thing. So when the team takes some time, sometimes it's confronting, sometimes it's scary. You're in front of all your other teammates and going, oh shit, like I've got to answer these questions and be prepared. But again, driving that accountability that the team now come to us with a plan for the month. They know what jobs they're doing, how they're going to hit their targets. It's taken time. And again, dashboard insights drives a lot of these things, but you can do it without it. You just, it comes from workflow and planning.
Yeah.
That, Greg driving that, now I can just see these huge results in the team when the penny drops and they get how it all bolts together from WIP and recoverability and productivity and their timesheet entries. They have their first killer month where they smash it. They go, I get this now. I know why Greg comes to me and asks all these questions. And that as a leader as well, to then have them controlling their destiny, but know that they can talk to Greg and talk to anyone else about these things because it is transparent and open. And the last part of the people thing is what Shelley then adds to that from a support, guidance, diversity, inclusivity. The team feels so comfortable going to their HR manager or the person who's driving people and culture and saying, hey, I'm feeling this way. Can you help? Or, even if it's not the emotional side, it's like, hey, I need some training and development in this area. I feel like I'm slipping. So having a go-to person that controls all of those things, or at least then can relay it back to Greg and I when we have our internal meetings as senior leaders, that just means, when you're covering communication, empowerment, development, support, guidance, like all of that is just the critical things that a leader has to give their people to feel like they can thrive and get the best out of their job and their day-to-day. And look, the job is a big part of their lives, right? You're spending 40 hours a week if you're full-time, give or take a couple of hours. You might as well enjoy it. You might as well be bloody good at it too. So then you get the most out of it.
Yeah, well said. And I think so hopefully, again, I can't keep scribbling notes because I won't be looking at what's going on, but to you guys that are online, some key things in there that I took away, a couple of takeaways there was, collaboration, which was an important one. So getting the team working together, but also empowering them. So if sometimes we're not sure what that actually means, so it's really good to work through that. If you guys have got time listening to this and going, well, what does that actually mean? How do I start doing that? Because everyone knows it, but how do I start doing that? So that example that you just gave then, if someone, instead of you, one of the things that I've always believed in as well as a similar type of leadership to you just there is, they've got the tools, let them come to you with the plan. And then it's a matter of, right, so what help do you need from me to implement that plan? So it's the old scenario. Most people don't like being told. Okay, but that's sometimes a style of management that people run with. So here's a different way that you could do that in a collaborative manner that gets feedback, buy-in, the planning day, the team. So they're all a part of that communication, which is the other one that you mentioned, which was so important in there.
And from again, warts and all bearing the mistakes, I think quite early on, we went pretty hard on bills. We've got to hit targets, bills, without communicating the whole 360 of jobs out the door, happy clients, hitting our targets, getting to the profitability that means that we've got more to share with our team, and then more, we can do more community events. We can run things that are meaningful and, do more with what we've got. But yeah, I think sometimes, we dived into it and just went, oh my God, we've got to get bills done. And the team went, oh shit, like this used to be fun. Future advisory was fun. And now they talk about bills all the time or hitting targets. So it's finding the happy medium, right? Like, and you're going to make mistakes. I mean, we did. And we I guess, seeking that constant feedback to one of the apps I missed actually. And Tommy Boyd will kill me if I didn't mention it, was Everperform. And that's just another way. So, we've got dashboard insights where we keep the finger on the pulse of actual numbers and actual results. But the other side of that is we care about our people and how they're feeling. So Everperform just allows us to match productivity, well-being, and performance back to their emotional responses. Are they getting outside for fresh air? Are they having meaningful conversations with their colleagues or managers? And all of that maps into then how does that tick back to their performance? So a lot of the times there's correlations between actually getting fresh air and doing exercise and their figures are going through the roof. So if somebody says they haven't got outside or they haven't exercised for a while, then it's, Shally or a manager or myself or Greg, somebody can then drive the conversation. Say, hey mate, is everything okay? What's going on? And again, that's that bringing it back to, it's more than just having an employee to get in and hit some targets. Like, if you care about your people and create that culture of, actually caring and putting things in place that allow you to do that. So, we've had near run-ins where we nearly lost team members who were burnt out, exhausted, tired, and didn't know how to communicate that. But through an app, they were happy to kind of, not happy, but they were responding their real feelings because it was at night time on an app or first thing in the morning when it pings them to do a pulse. And all of a sudden, when we got those results, we're like, oh shit, we need to pull that person aside and have a chat. And fortunately, we're able to make changes to the role and adjust so that we didn't lose an incredible team member, didn't walk out the door and leave the industry. We're able to keep that person working in our, public practice space, which is often quite stressful and, hard work for what can sometimes seem like limited reward.
Yeah, so true. So true, especially this time of the
year. Bloody oath.
So, mate, just sort of, if we can maybe delve into, let's say, the week in the life off. Let's call it from a future advisory point of view. You've got offices, like you mentioned before. You got a couple of offices. You got Perth. You got the sunny coast as well. What does it look like in terms of the week, without going into too much, but just a quick sort of overview of what does the week look like? So, one listening to this could also look at this and say, right, what are we doing right, and what are we doing something that we can sort of just tweak and improve?
Yep. Again, I don't think there's anything necessarily right or wrong, but what we are doing is definitely touch points in WIP. I think that ongoing, even though they control their destiny and they run their WIP for the month, it's check-ins to make sure that everyone's got on the right track. That allows for somebody who turns around and goes, actually, I've got a couple of grand gap in my capacity this month. I need some work. And then boom, 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 watch the magic as the team dishes their work around to fill up their colleagues. Yes. Or one of the managers or Greg or I can say, actually, we've just onboarded this new work. Boom, there you go. So the WIP meetings and the cadence and timing around those meetings, we have one earlier in the week, one later in the week, and there's 2 different teams. We've got mint and purple to break up the size of the teams. So that's really important around those things. The admin team have their own daily huddles. And I think, we've got a team of 3 in the core and then kind of an offshore and a couple of others that kind of jump in and out. Again, we've got quite a few part-timers that pinch hit in when we need them. So again, keeping a track on who's doing what, when are their lunch breaks, when do we make sure the phones are covered, someone's on email, someone's doing packages. So the daily admin meeting has been something that I think has been hugely successful to keep that team as a really tight unit. When they do work, let's say somebody's at Narre, someone's at South Yarra, 2 people are at home, 1 in the Philippines, it just means that they got this connection in the morning. They smile and say, good morning, how are you? They're all sitting there with their coffee, and then it's boom, let's go get it done. Those kind of meetings, again, that's not me. Day in my life is chaos and crazy and sales calls and, podcasts and everything else. But then making sure where possible, connection with the team to give the team access to myself so they can ask questions about finishing off jobs or what was needed. There's lots. I love it. This is what makes the week go so fast. And then look, we've got one later today. The outside of the work stuff, getting jobs out the door and the tasks that admin are doing, and the bookkeeping team have their own bookkeeping whip and huddle as well. But then there's the firm-wide huddle, which is more of a culture type session.
Okay.
And that everyone gets a couple of minutes each. We go through, every single team member has a chance to talk. And the questions are what did I achieve this week? What made me smile? What are some challenges I could use a hand with? And some other kind of just more feelings and, sharing a story, which is great because it's somebody gets a new puppy and everyone gets excited and they share the photo of their puppy. But that 1 hour a fortnight, and then, every now and then it, gets canned, it's 1 a month, but we pretty much consistently roll those at least monthly and twice monthly. It just means, again, if I work at the South Yarra office and I only see the same 5 or 6 people, but I don't get to see the other 20, how am I building a connection with them that's meaningful? Correct. So then, if I know that, let's say Amy was going to a winery with her husband on the weekend and I end up on the phone to Amy, I can genuinely say, hey, Amy, how's the winery on the weekend? Is it worth going to? We can have a 5 or 10 minute chat. That just means when Amy comes to work, her job's just not about sending out packages and answering phone calls and dealing with, other stuff. She also gets a meaningful relationship with her colleagues around her where people care about her life and what she's been up to. So without those kind of meetings, you won't get that. So yeah, that's a lot of meetings. And, sometimes I feel like there's too many. So again, work in progress for us as well is to figure out how many of those meetings can we fit into each week or fortnight without, ruining our capacity and our productivity. But a lot of it kind of bolts towards, I think we've kind of settled on a sweet spot at the moment. And then a fortnightly training meeting is a fortnightly training session, which is about to be rehashed into one full team fortnightly training where everyone kind of joins a specific training. And then the second fortnight is your own time to do your own specific training where you'll report what training as an individual you're doing. So I might join a webinar on ChatGPT and I'll write my notes in a joint training pool so that everybody can see what each other did and learn from each other. So, yeah.
Good. Like it. And you commented before about a lot of meetings, but I suppose that drives communication. That drives that element you said before, how important it was to there's constant communication going on and taking place. So therefore people feel like it is a collaborative working space. Yeah.
And a lot of time those meetings can actually eliminate 10 emails, 5 Slack messages and 4 phone calls because you've waited for that particular time to go, hey, here's a couple of things I need covered, bang, and you just get it done. So look, Slack and emails, their own beast in themselves. So those meetings, just important. Again, connectivity and workflow, and a few different kind of things that bolt together. But super important, especially as you said with Perth and Sunny Coast as well. Sometimes you forget that what comms happen in the room in South Yarra or in the room in Narre Warren, where Greg and most of the team are out there as well. Then making sure there's a touch point where we can loop in the team members that weren't in the office that day.
Yep. So true. Now, let's take this into a topic that you mentioned before and outsourcing. Now, I know a lot of firms have had to move this way, because obviously the lack of skills, the lack of people, lack of good people, certainly here in Australia, to take up roles. So therefore, sort of one of our great supporters is Profit Master Global Outsourcing. So thanks, Rich. Rich is always a magnificent supporter of ours. So thanks, Richard Croker. What's been your experience? And I know you mentioned it, you touched on it before, sorry. What's been your experience to date of maybe things that have worked for you, things that haven't worked for you, and what are you thinking about next?
Oof. Yeah, wow. This is yeah. So January 2021, September 2020 we started, and in the previous firm we didn't have an offshore team, and then in this one, we started with that lean team. We were growing like crazy. Clients, especially during the COVID period, what we found was a lot of accounting firms weren't able to service their clients in the way we were, being cloud and fully remote from home and very out there with our marketing and our communication. There was a lot of like value added content we were just sending for free, just saying, hey, you need to know this. So people would then tell their friends, did you hear this from your accountant? My accountant just told me this. So that was where a lot of that growth came from there. And we already hired, we went from 11 to 27 in 1.5 years. Now, 5 of them were offshore and 11 of them were onshore. So we were hiring 1 a month almost here, and then not able to find more people. So it came from, as you said, like when you're struggling to find staff and you need good people who can get the work done, qualified, skilled, trained, we had this opportunity to hire a couple of accountants, a couple of bookkeepers, and some admin support. So that was kind of across the 5. It worked really, really well at the start. We were investing a lot of energy. There's always issues, what you get, what you put in. So if you set up good systems and processes, you've got training manuals, you've got set ways you do a BAS or a tax return or a set of financials and the way the work papers are done, you're going to have some successes. If everything's loose and not documented and there's no procedures, it's going to be a nightmare, just straight off the bat. Yeah. So I think where it potentially went wrong or where it changed for us, that was during COVID at the start in Jan 2021, where everyone worked remotely. We then went back to working in the office a couple of days a week. We wanted the team in the office, and our offshore team were no different to our onshore team, where they had access to an office opened, but most of them didn't want to go to the office. It caused some confusion, some disruption. They started looking for different jobs. There was an issue where I believe we were meant to have done a pay review, just like what we do with our team here. Every year, certain date, certain time, send out a survey, talk to our team, meet them, talk about salary and performance, and bang, we roll around again, good to go. I think that was missed, and it didn't happen with our offshore team. And that also caused them to think, well, maybe we're not valued or maybe we're not important. So again, making sure that you're setting up the systems and procedures as a firm to ensure that all of your team are treated the same from a culture and people point of view. So again, I think it just kind of went pear-shaped, and we went from 5 and a team of people who were able to get in and help us get jobs done, and, great work papers, great communication with the team. They were in all the whips, they were in the huddles. They talked about what made them smile for the week as well. Like they were treated exactly the same as every person here. And in the blink of an eye, at the end of the 2022 calendar year, and then the start of 2023 calendar year, we were down to 1. The accountants and the bookkeeping team basically were all gone. And that was a huge learning curve for us as to what it took to hold on to and nurture and maintain that offshore team. And now it's kind of back to the drawing board for us. We've still got 1 legendary team member in the admin team. And again, that resource, look, it was finding the resource in itself, right? Like it wasn't we wanted to take jobs from Australia and that kind of, sometimes that mentality you get. It was just finding someone who was happy to join our team and do the job we needed done. Now, then when it comes to cost savings, the difference between paying someone in the Philippines and someone here, what a great wage in the Philippines there versus what we pay here. I mean, that's where you get your difference and you get your margins and your efficiencies and things like that. But now we look at it and we look at our margins and our profitability level and think, if I have to keep hiring intermediate and seniors at the rates that are being asked for in the market at the moment, it then makes it very hard for me to support certain types of business packages where if they just want a basic tax and compliance package and we need to get that done at a certain price to maintain profitability, it's very hard to do that with high cost team here. So I think there's a world where you find a bit of a hybrid and you have some support to your team here to be able to have the best of both worlds, but we're back into the exploring and looking into how to make that a reality again.
Yeah, good. No, thanks for that. Let's talk clients, because obviously, in particular, when we're looking to grow, I know you've mentioned the podcast before.
Yep.
Did you focus on a particular industry that you wanted to grow in? And I suppose bringing it back to things like the podcast, how do you measure what you do so that you can actually put a finger and say, well, we've invested in that and this is what the return has been?
Yeah, no, very good. Where to start? Clients wise, there wasn't necessarily a specific focus where we went to market and went, that's, we want trades and construction, for an example. But what we did do, the way we look, the way we act as a firm and our website, it speaks to a certain type of person, a person with a certain type of attitude, personality, communication style. We don't necessarily get the extreme professional jump on our website and go, that's the accountant I want. But what we do get is like these relaxed, fun, happy, easygoing clients. Then if you try and put them into an industry, a lot of the times they are trades and construction. They're guys that have built a business. They want to be out there on the tools and they want to be able to call their accountant and say, mate, when are we having a beer? How much tax do I owe? Great, cool, see you later, bye. And know that it's just handled behind the scenes. Yeah. Outside of trade and construction, professional services, we get what they're doing. So we know professional service. So we deal with financial planners, mortgage brokers, engineers, then even like physios, chiros, osteos, all that space, anything professional services, selling people's time for money, because we get it, we're doing it. So we're able to have those combos. And then health and fitness industry as a byproduct of that, and e-commerce, retail, and online. So we've got a few in that space. And again, being a lover for marketing and, customer acquisition costs and, lifetime client, value and things, like being able to, again, speak the lingo and educate our team as to what's important to clients in each of those buckets just means they keep referring their friends in those industries, they keep growing. And that's kind of where the focus ended up landing. I've probably gone a little bit off what your entire question was. Okay. So client industries, that sorts that. From a growth perspective obviously word of mouth is always every single firm's biggest growth avenue. So, making sure, I guess what we weren't afraid of, and we've done this since day one, 6-7 years ago, is if you're having a conversation with a client and they're happy and you're doing a great job, letting them know that you're open for more business. So if they've got friends or family that need someone like us, tell them, like actually sit there and eyeball them and say, hey, if you know anyone that needs help, send them my way. I'm happy to help. Because a lot of the time your clients think you're too busy. Yes. They call you and you don't answer the phone, or they write you an email and you write back 2 days later. They automatically think you're just too busy. Realistically, if you've got capacity, you've got room to onboard new clients, the first thing you should be doing is telling your existing good clients to tell their good mates. You don't want the shit ones. So that's always one. But the flow on from that is, we didn't want to just rely on word of mouth. And the other thing that we've done is from website, SEO, Instagram, marketing, blogs, video content, it's always been a deliberate strategy to have so many other little things kind of trickling all over the place that, one of our biggest clients was onboarded through an Instagram post. She runs a bunch of hairdressing salons, awesome client. She posted to her feed. She's got a huge following in Melbourne, and wrote, looking for a great accountant, who should I use? And somebody who was a client of hers posted, use that Future Advisory, they're great. She went onto our Instagram page, flicked down the feed and saw videos and colors and, it looked and felt like her, and she was into marketing. So she went, that's the firm for me. Picked up the phone, called, we met within a couple of hours and proposal went out, boom, they're onboarded. So it's not saying 50% of my new clients comes from Instagram, but there's a portion from Instagram and Facebook and the website, and then the Numbers Game podcast as well. And the reason I know the numbers behind it is we track it. Every single time a new client is onboarded, we ask them, how did you hear about us? Where did you come from? And if it was a referral from an existing client, we send that client a gift. They get a hamper, a bottle of wine or something like that. Because again, you want to encourage that repeat behavior. So then that client gets the bottle of wine, tells his friends like, oh, my accountant sent me a bottle of wine because I referred him a client. So it's all of those little things that you build in, and they're all systems and processes. When somebody refers a client, they ask, they say it, we get a Slack channel that's like client gifts, hey, Jace, Adrian referred someone. What does Adrian like? Oh, red wine. Loves a red wine. Send him this one. Because I know, you know, we record all these things. So it's all those little extra things that just, you know, will set a firm apart from others when they're doing things like that and making it easy. Because if I had to go to the admin team and say, hey, did we get any referrals this week? Oh yeah, we got that one. Oh, did we send them a gift? Oh no, I forgot. But because it's a built-in process, when a new client's onboarded, how do they come on board? What's the value we're adding to our firm? So we always track new group revenue to be able to go, what did we grow this month or this quarter? Because then we're forward planning for, do we need more staff? Like, do we need to hire another team member? So it's all a very deliberate thing that happens. And again, the numbers game was, you know, with a financial planner and a mortgage broker, again, it was, we can only service a certain amount of clients. We can only help a certain amount of people. And a lot of the time clients will try and call and book for like half an hour, 1 hour sessions to learn, like, how should I invest? Should I buy shares? How do I, you know, get ready to buy a property? But if we can generate all of this content through a podcast and link people back to that to get free value, when they then are ready for an accountant or a mortgage broker or whatever, they're going to call the people that they heard help them for free in the first place. So it's like, and surprisingly, again, I didn't necessarily think it was going to be anything mind-blowing, but now 106 episodes in after 2 years, the clients that we have got from the numbers game are simply incredible because they know us, they know what we stand for, they know our culture and our values, and they know how we work because it's talked about in great detail. That when we send them a fee proposal, that's usually, you know, we're trying to like really increase where we sit. You know, we're not the most expensive, but we're no longer coming in small to medium fees. We're coming in further up. And they're not even flinching. They're going, no, I know the value you guys give your clients. Done, signed, let's go. So yeah, all of that stuff adds to how you can grow your fees and how you can, and our aim now and what we're heading towards is less clients and more revenue per client, you know, as a deliberate strategy, because we want to make sure the clients we do have on our books, we can give them so much love and look after them and continue to give them the extra services that we've never had the capacity for in the past, like cash flow forecasts, monthly budgets versus actuals, and all those really valuable things that a lot of small business owners won't do because they think it's not affordable or, you know, their accountant doesn't have time for it.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Now, if you've got questions, and I know there's a few coming through, please drop them into the Q&A. If you've got anything you want to ask Jason, that would be awesome. But I know a few months ago we went to lunch and you were talking about, you spoke to me about a client exit interview when a client obviously decided to leave for whatever reason. Are you okay to talk about that? Because I thought that, you know, every time we catch up, whether it's these or whether it's a lunch or coffee, there's always something that I learn, and you've got some great energy and thoughts and processes around that. So sharing this one, I think, is a really good one.
Yep, 100%. Again, we're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be something that goes wrong, but it's how you learn from that and how you adapt and react that I think, you know, goes to show what you're worth and what you can do with it. Any client that has left in the last couple of years always gets a phone call for an exit interview, basically. And it's a really positive experience. You know, I'm actually sickeningly, I can't even say the word, but I really enjoy it because it's this learning experience of just asking, hey, just giving you a quick call to find out, you know, what happened, you know, what went wrong, what were we doing right, what caused you to make the decision to leave us and go somewhere else. And if it's about fees or communication or an email that didn't get, like whatever it is, it's about taking that feedback and sharing it with the team to say, guys, just spoke to Dave, who's moving on to Blue Rock or firm down the road or whatever it is. Here's what Dave's feedback was of what happened during his time with us. And there'll be a few things listed out and it's shared amongst everyone to go, oh, yep, we can learn from that. We can adapt and change some of our things. Now, sometimes they leave organically because they realize that we're not right for them. They weren't communicating with us, which meant things didn't get done right. Our fees went up beyond what they felt was comfortable for their affordability as a small business. And, you know, we've grown and they didn't. So they went, look, we're just not comfortable anymore. Or Jace, I used to deal with you, but now I deal with this person. Like there's little things, but it's always about learning and then going, how can we change that so that in future we don't have that happen again? If it's a genuine one that we didn't want to lose, on from the client exit interview, and one that I always love talking about as well beyond that, is exiting clients yourself. Now, I still don't think we do enough of it, but quite regularly we will, if a client arcs up or, you know, doesn't communicate how we would communicate with our people or our clients, quite quickly an exit letter is drafted. We tell the team members who felt a bit uncomfortable, you're more important than that client, the way they spoke to you. So we're going to gently exit that client. And usually that exit letter is along the lines of, we no longer feel like we're right for working with each other. Usually it's not you, it's us. You know, we recommend, here's a couple of accountants in the area who would be suited to working with you, and we wish you all the best. We've packaged up all your documents in this locked file. And thank you for everything and good luck.
Yep.
And, you know, I think we've talked about it as a team, looking at we've got too many groups that we're managing at the moment, and some of them aren't on the retainer model because they're like, oh, I just want to pay you at year end. Yep. Now we're going to be coming to the point where we're going, hey, if you don't come on board with the way we work, unfortunately, we can't work together anymore. We'll have a whole bunch of exit letters drafted, ready to go for the ones that we think 3 years on don't fit the future advisory way. They're not fitting into our model and our mold of how we want to work with our clients. And we want growth for our clients. We want growth for our team and our business. And if those particular groups are kind of not on board with that and don't want to be part of that, then, you know, they're not right for us. So
yeah, that's okay.
And it's organic, it's natural, and it's definitely okay. And I think a lot of accountants hold on to fees and clients that they know they shouldn't be working with. They know it upsets their team. And we've still got some. Like, I turned to one of the team and looked at the job he was working on. I went, oh man, I wouldn't do that job. And if I won't do it, I don't want my team to have to do it. Like, that job sucks. And that client shouldn't be sending you the work in that format and expecting you to do it. Now that we're partway through, let's finishing it, but we're not doing it again next year. And that client goes, oh, Jace cares about the kind of work that I'm doing so that I enjoy my job. He's actually going to let go of a client that pays fees so that our job's more enjoyable. So you get this kind of like, and actually all it's going to do is open up space to bring on a great new client that does want to work with us. Yeah, correct.
So true. So true. There's a quick question here.
Yeah.
Do you guys have timesheets? And if you do, are these meetings counted under the KPI and reducing members' productivity?
We do have timesheets. And so the WIP meetings, huddles, all of that, they fall into the other 20 or 30%, depending on whether they're 70 or 80%. So we feel that, you know, the 30 hours a week of doing the billable time and the 6, 7, 8 of other admin time, the quick little half-hour WIPs and the fortnightly huddles and fortnightly training should fall into part of that additional 6, 7, 8 hours. So yeah, we definitely do timesheets. I was actually talking to one of the team about this the other day. They basically, well, he was asking actually the new team member who loved all the productivity reports and the KPIs, and he's, oh, you know, how do firms that don't do this, you know, don't do timesheets do this? And I said, mate, when we started off, we had a team of 7, including the 3 directors back in the first version. And we would sit in a room at the start of every month and we ran a Trello board and we put the value of every single job that was going to be done. And we dragged and dropped it under a person's name. And when we know the capacity for this month was 80 grand and we've allocated 90 grand worth of jobs. So as long as at the end of the month, all those jobs are done, we know we exceeded our capacity and productivity target. Yep. Cool. Everyone go. And at the end of the month, we'd come in somewhere near and we went, yep, feels about right. What happens when you try and scale and grow and, you know, your team goes from a small team that you've got your finger all over every job to something much bigger and you've got somebody else doing reviews and everything. It just you can't get the granular detail you need to know who's doing the work and who's not. Because even in that example where we had 4 or 5 people, one of them could have been absolutely smashing their targets and doing double the work while somebody sat back, not really doing too much. Yeah. And as a firm owner and someone who loves numbers, I want to be able to granularly see all of that detail, and not to come down on someone like a ton of shit, but to help them be better in their role and enjoy it. And then to find out if they're not right for the job, we've got the data that backs up making that decision as a business rather than just keeping people because they're good people.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Look, we have actually gone past 1 o'clock, so that's okay. Look, to everyone that's online, if you do have any other questions, throw them in there. We're going to look to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So thank you very much. Jace, we've gone through a lot. If there was one or two or three things to share with people in terms of they're at that stage, they want to grow. They may look at you and say, well, I don't have the type of skills that Jason has. I'm not that type of person. Where do you think they start? But you've worked hard on that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think if you want to grow and you don't have a sales plan or sales and marketing strategy separate to your planning day that you do a strategic workshop with your team, part of what we talked about is our marketing plan or our sales plan. Who is your ideal client? How are you going to reach them? And if it's not you and you can't manage that yourself, it's engaging a professional. And that's if you want to grow, right? And I think in this day and age, if you're running a practice, if you don't have this and clients either start to find their way out the door to go somewhere else because they want something shiny and new and whatever, I think it needs to be part of the plan. Like you don't have to go all in and do something huge and crazy and grow $1 million a year, but just having a consistent flow of good quality leads that's going to make your business exciting to come and work for the team that you've got. So the sales and marketing plan is hugely important. It doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be the person necessarily implementing it all, but having somebody else guide you and lead the way. All the stuff that we implement, there's Victoria in our marketing team from Walker Digital. She does all of the posts and this, and she attends. So our business coach and our marketing, head of our marketing team, they attend our planning workshop. So they meet our team, they get to know who our clients are, what our pain points are. So one of the things we talked about was what blogs can we write to make our admin team's life easier. So if a client said, oh, why do you charge me for a payment plan? Isn't that really easy? Go, oh, quick, check your emails. I've just sent you a link to a blog where it talks about all of the things that we have to give the ATO to set up a really big, long payment plan. And it's like, it actually includes how to do it yourself. So if you don't want to pay us, please follow the link that I've just sent you and set up your own plan. All good. Like there's absolutely no stress because it's not good work that we enjoy doing, but here you go. So then that came out of the planning workshop. Then there was another one about like clients call and go, should I have a self-managed super fund? Cool. Here's a link for you to go and read, linked to an episode of the podcast about self-managed super funds. So it's all that content creation, which then leads to sales, came out of our planning workshop on what did we need to do as a firm to keep progressing and pushing forward.
Interesting. Mate, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've gone through today. Certainly
Pleasure.
The knowledge, the expertise, the ability to provide all of our listeners with just insightful. There's so many little things in there that everyone can take away. That's why we try and condense that down into something is always hard. That's why all of you guys that are online have got the ability to go back and listen to this as well. Look, it comes out as a podcast as well. So I take the file and it comes out as a podcast. If you want to listen to it in the car, or I reckon in 7 days' time, once it goes into post-production, it'll be up on our YouTube channel as well. So, mate, thank you very much. I always love, obviously, spending time with you, and I really appreciate you giving us your time today. So thank you.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Mate, to all of you guys who are online, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this. We've gone over time by about 10 minutes, but I think it was worth it given the topic, given the level of detail to the questions that we asked as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Funnily enough, Jason's spoken a bit about marketing just then. Funnily enough, this is just by luck maybe. My next masterclass is actually talking about all things marketing. So it is on June 20. That's our next masterclass. So look out for that. I've got the very impressive Emma Reeves joining me here live. So, and her knowledge again is unbelievable. So again, these are the sorts of things that you can take from from your internal to your external. If you want to grow, you want to think about things. What are the different things in marketing that you can start to implement for the new financial year if you do want to grow? Make sure you join us for 20 June. Thanks, Jace. Signing off till I see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks. Bye.